Coming up on the J-Man Show, we discuss both the NBA and NHL playoffs. All that and more coming up right here on the J-Man Show. Hey everybody, welcome into the 9th edition of the J-Man Show. Glad to be here with you. Hope all my Canadian friends hope they had a great May 2/4 / Victoria Day, whatever you call it, weekend last weekend. And I hope that my American friends, I hope that they have a great Memorial Day weekend this upcoming weekend. I had a great May 2/4 weekend. I got to spend some time with my cousin, who's like my brother. I got to spend some time with my niece, with my fur niece, Macy. I got to do some fishing. I got to do some work. I got some time off of work, so it was really nice, and really warm, but decent weather, I thought, for the most part. And yeah, I had a really good weekend. I hope everybody else did too, and I hope everybody in the States has a very good weekend. So as mentioned in the open, we're going to talk about NHL and NBA playoffs. NBA playoffs, look, we're going to talk about some of the fans, some of the controversy that's gone on with fans being allowed back in the arena in the NBA playoffs, because they have definitely stirred some bad kind of drink. If I could use that kind of analogy, the fans and the players aren't really seeing eye to eye right now, and there's been some comments made by some of the players that I may or may not agree with. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. And then, we're going to discuss the NHL playoffs. We're going to discuss the Canadian division. We're going to discuss Edmonton getting swept by Winnipeg. And we're going to talk about the Leafs and Canadian series going on right now. Before we do all of that, got to take care of some business and remind you that you can stay connected to this podcast through our social media pages. Facebook at The J-Man Show, and to both Twitter and Instagram at _The J-Man Show. Alright, so let's lead off with the NHL playoffs. Look, for my American friends, yes, the NHL playoffs are actually going on right now. Like, not just the NBA playoffs, not just Major League Baseball regular season, not just OTAs in the NFL. Like, there is the NHL playoffs going on right now. I understand that this year's playoffs are not as exciting as years past. I mean, I'm not as excited for the NHL playoffs this year. Just not. I usually get into the NHL playoffs because, to me, it's the best postseason. I mean, maybe you could say football, basically just because of the one and done. But I think that the NHL playoffs is fantastic. Not always does the most talented team or the best team win. It's hard-nosed. You get a lot of close series, a lot of close games, nail-biters. You got to stay up to watch them. You can't just fall asleep. It's must-see TV. That's what it usually is. This year, look, there's a Game 7 on tonight. It's the Minnesota Wild and the Vegas Golden Knights. But I'm not hype into it. I'm not hype into the Maple Leafs Canadiens. I wasn't hype into the Oilers and Jets, even though I didn't really have enough time to get hype about that. You still had the regular season going on at the beginning of all of these series. So it's been wacky. It's been weird, just like the whole season. And I hope that next year they can get back to normal, get back to the normal divisions, get back to normal playoff format. Because, look, we have no idea how good any of these teams are against each other. I mean, we know how good the Leafs are compared to the rest of the Canadian teams, which all kind of stink. We know how good some of these other American teams are in, again, divisions that were kind of made up on the fly. But right now, they're just, again, playing within their division. They're not playing anybody else. So once they get to play somebody else, once the Leafs get to play somebody else, or the Canadians, or the Jets, or the Lightning, if they can actually pull it out in their series, once we get to see these teams get to play one another, hey, maybe then it'll be a little bit more exciting. Right now, it's just not, with the whole just playing your weird division and playing a bunch of games in your division and seeing teams that you've already played a dozen times isn't that exciting to me. Just isn't. Let's talk about the Canadian division. Let's talk about the North Division. All right, let's talk a little Oilers and Winnipeg Jets. Because, I mean, if you weren't paying attention, you kind of forgot that the Oilers were even in the postseason because they were swept that quickly by the Jets. And then there have been huge questions surrounding Connor McDavid that he can't lead a team to the Stanley Cup, that he should leave Edmonton, that he should request a trade from Edmonton, that Edmonton hasn't built it right around him, and all this stuff. First and foremost, give credit to the Winnipeg Jets. They are always built for the postseason. They are that gritty team. They are a more defensive team when you start talking about the Oilers, start talking about the Leafs, start talking about the Canadiens. They are more of a defensive team. They are more of a gritty team. They are more of a playoff-ready NHL team. They may not be a great regular season team. No, they may not be. But they are a postseason built team. This is a team that a couple years ago went to the Western Conference Finals. Okay, this for all intents and purposes, like I said, they're always built for the postseason. I know that a couple of players have changed hands here, but they're always built for the postseason, and they were the complete opposite of what the Oilers are. The Oilers are this offensive team. They want to play with speed. They want to play with puck possession. They're more of a European-style team. They play more like the Leafs play. Speed, puck possession, offensive game. The issue is the Oilers don't have a lot of depth on their offense. I mean, yes, they have McDavid. Yes, they have Draisaitl, two of the probably top 5 point getters in the NHL right now. But after that, there is a drop-off. You start looking at their third and fourth lines, and they're just like, meh. And then you look at that blue line, you look at their goaltending, and it's god-awful. So, I mean, look, if you're an Oilers fan and you expect them to do anything in the postseason, yeah, maybe you would have hoped that they could have gotten through the Canadian division. Maybe you hoped they would have finished better. They would have been in a better position, that they may have been able to beat the Jets. But really, they weren't a cup contending team to start the season, and they weren't a cup contending team during the middle of the season. They weren't a cup contending team at the end of the season. Never were they a cup contending team, in my eyes, anyways. Yes, is it a disappointing season? Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Getting swept out of the playoffs is very disappointing. I mean, the question surrounding can McDavid lead this team, I think I think it's a fair question. At the end of the day, Alexander Ovechkin got these same questions, when he's with the Capitals early on in his career again, and he consistently failed in the postseason, couldn't consistently get it done. And then all of a sudden, guess what? He decided to get a little gritty. He decided to maybe not go for the big hit, but maybe go for the more quantity hits. He decided to play a little bit more gritty, a little more defensive style. Realized, hey, you don't lose a whole lot of offense doing that. And the Capitals ended up going and having a run and winning the Stanley Cup a few years ago. And that's what Connor McDavid's going to have to do. That's what Leon Draisaitl's going to have to do. They're going to have to get a little more gritty when it comes to the postseason. They're going to have to get a little more. They're going to have to play a little bit better defense. Because they don't got any on the blue line. They don't got anything special in net. So they have to do it. So I think the questions are fair to question whether McDavid can lead a team to Stanley Cup. I do also think that they're a little bit early. Again, he's still in his young 20s. Still early. And I also think that the questions that have been asked about the Oilers building in around him, look, the Oilers haven't done a good job. They didn't do a good job before Connor McDavid, and they haven't done a good job since Connor McDavid adding to that blue line. They had all these number 1 picks, they had all these high draft picks, and they didn't add to their blue line at all. Not one single bit. They kept adding forwards. They kept adding forwards. They kept adding forwards. We all knew this was going to happen. We all knew that this blue line sucked. We all knew that. And they haven't done anything in free agency to really add to it significantly. They haven't done anything significantly to add to their goaltending, which I think has also been subpar. Again, you could maybe blame it on the blue line a little bit as well. But I would argue that, again, Cam Talbot wasn't the greatest. And the guy they have now, again, not the greatest. But, again, my biggest issue with the Oilers, again, I like Connor McDavid. I do follow the Oilers. My biggest issue with the Oilers and with McDavid is you haven't played defense. You don't play defense. You don't play gritty. You don't play playoff-style hockey. And you're not going to win that way. You're just not. You're not going to be successful winning the way that you're winning the way that you're playing. You're just not. And now there's rumors that, hey, could McDavid ask for a trade? Could the Oilers trade Connor McDavid? I don't think it's right from both sides. I don't think it's right for Connor McDavid because the teams that can afford his contract are bad teams, are teams that are worse than the Oilers. Why would he want to go to those teams? Unless he sees something in one of those teams. But again, they're going to have to give up a lot to get him. They're going to have to mortgage their future to go get him, which means they're going to be worse probably for a few more seasons than what they had originally planned. And then for the Oilers, I mean, look, you're hoping that next year you can get fans in your brand new arena. That's what you're hoping for. So why are you going to trade the best player right now in the NHL? Why would you do that? You want fans. You need ticket sales. So it doesn't make smart economic sense for the Oilers. It doesn't make smart sense in terms of winning for Connor McDavid. So look, it's disappointing that the Oilers got blown out or got swept by the Winnipeg Jets, but it's another indictment as you hope that Ken Holland can have enough time to be able to build it right. And I have a lot of questions with Kenny Holland. Again, me being a Wings fan, I have a lot of questions surrounding Kenny Holland and whether he can actually do it. But Oilers fans got to be patient. They got to wait it out. And it's the worst thing to do, especially when you have the best player, especially when you have Leon Draisaitl, who's a great number 2. It's the toughest thing to do to wait, but you're just going to have to wait it out. Flipping over here to the more east side and talking about the Leafs and the Canadiens. Very interesting game last night. The Canadiens led 3-0 at one point, and then the Leafs stormed all the way back. They tied it in the third period, and then they kind of puked it away early in overtime after the Canadiens were able to score. They were able to win, push it to a game 6, and the Leafs still lead the series 3-2. For all intents and purposes, I think the Leafs are going to win this series. I think the Leafs are better than the Canadiens. I don't think anybody expected the Canadiens to really do much in terms of if they could get to the postseason. I don't think they really expect them to do much. But again, they've played the Leafs how many times? So they know, the Leafs and Canadiens know each other very well. So yeah, you would expect that the series would be closer than what's expected. But at the end of the day, I think the Leafs are the more talented team here. I think the Canadiens are up and coming. I think the Canadiens can be very dangerous in years to come. I think the Canadiens are trying to build it the same way as the Leafs. I think that they are trying to build a more of an offensive juggernaut. They've got a lot of very nice young pieces with Montreal. The problem is, I just don't think they have enough at their blue line. And again, Carey Price is getting older. And again, Carey Price is a tremendous goalie, probably the best goalie of this era. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to sit down and actually look at that. But probably the best goalie for the last decade. And again, the Canadiens not really being relevant in that decade is unfortunate. But now that he's getting older, again, reflexes get a little slower. And again, you don't have a great blue line. Not going to really equal a great formula, especially against a team that is the offensive juggernaut that Toronto is. But look, if the Leafs win this series, for all intents and purposes, if the Leafs win this series, is this going to go down as one of the greats in Leafs history because of the 4 straight years that you've gone out in the first round? Like, is this going to be like, oh my gosh, a great turnaround? Look, I don't think so. Because again, this Canadian division sucks. And when you compare it to, you start looking at other divisions, the Canadian division sucks. The Leafs should have done exactly what they did. And if they didn't, it would have been disappointing. But, like, wake me up when they play a good team. Wake me up when they play a team that actually was another cup contending team. Because they're playing the Canadiens, again, great story, got some nice young pieces, but they were not a cup contending team at all at any point during the season. The Leafs, people questioned at the beginning of the year, then mid-season they were like everybody was picking them to win the cup. And then kind of towards the end of the season, they kind of teetered, and people were kind of like, they might not. But like I said, wake me up when the Leafs actually play somebody good. And this would be a total Leafs thing to lose this series. It just would be, because they are the better team. They had the 3-1 lead in the series. They came storming all the way back in Game 5 to win the series. They would have closed it out, done. And now they got to go back to Montreal. There's going to be fans in Montreal. They're going to have to actually deal with that for the first time. All the pressure's back on the Leafs again. The Canadians don't have that pressure. It would be a total Leafs thing to blow this series. I don't expect it. I would laugh, and I will come on here and I will laugh if they do. But I don't expect it at all. 100%. Do not expect it. But I just think that Leaf fans, one of the most annoying fan bases in all of sports. They're like hyping this up like this is going to be like, this is a great series win for the Leafs. If they can pull this up, this is going to be great. Wake me up when you play a good team. Wake me up when you play another cup contending team. Because guess what? You haven't beaten one in the postseason at all. So, again, wake me up when you play a cup contending team. And first you got to get past Montreal, because right now it seems like you're struggling to do that. After the break, we will get into the National Basketball Association. And there are some disagreements between fans and players. Not a great combination. I'll get into that right after this. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, it's the J-Man here to talk about the new show, Ball Diamond Podcast, a part of the new podcast series from J-Man Sports. We all know baseball's losing fans quite rapidly, but we also know that there are still loyal fans of America's pastime. And if you are like me and love rumors, trades, prospects, pace of play, and talking about your favorite team, and ultimately just talking about the game of baseball, then Ball Diamond Podcast is for you. You can follow along with Ball Diamond Podcast via your social media pages, Facebook Ball Diamond Podcast, both Instagram and Twitter at Ball Diamond Pod. Ball Diamond Podcast is exclusively streaming on the new J-Man Sports YouTube channel. Alrighty, so in the United States, the NBA playoffs are going on. Again, Toronto Raptors did not make the postseason this year, which I think is this might be a trend now because of the whole Kyle Lowry situation, but we're not going to get into that right now. The NBA playoffs are going on right now, and in some places there are fans, and in some places there are full capacity arenas. In other places there are half capacity or quarter capacity of fans in these arenas. But there are fans in these arenas. It's great to see. Like Madison Square Garden was packed the other night. It was awesome to see. They were chanting expletives at Trae Young. It was fun. It was energetic. It was awesome. It just brought you back to the good old days. But fans have gone into it with players, and players have gone into it with fans. And it's caused some riffles thus far throughout the postseason. So let's kind of dive into this a little bit. So first, we'll actually head to Madison Square Garden. So the Knicks and Hawks playing in New York. The Knicks are in the postseason. NBA's better when the Knicks are good, right? Knicks was a heartbreaker game one. Trae Young was terrific. The Hawks shot very well. And again, it was a heartbreaking loss for the Knicks in game one. Game number two, it was all energy. The Knicks played off of that energy that the arena gave. It was awesome. The arena was after Trae Young. They didn't like Trae Young, all this stuff. So what ended up happening was Trae Young was inbounding the ball. And there's a video of it. A fan a few rows from the floor tries to spit on Trae Young. And it's inappropriate. You shouldn't do that. As a fan, you should never do that. Now Trae Young, after the game, sees the video and he has a little fun with it. 50 Cent was sitting right beside, where he was sitting courtside. He asked if 50 Cent was okay. He didn't press charges. He just kind of played it off like, yeah, you know what, who cares? They were chanting F Trae Young around the arena. He could have cared less. He handled it, I think, pretty maturely. Then you have what happened in Philadelphia between a Sixers fan and Russell Westbrook. Now, Russell Westbrook is no stranger to getting into it with fans, especially in Philadelphia, where there was a few years ago a fan said something racist to him. He got all upset with it, obviously, as he should have. That fan was kicked from the arena and banned for life. He's also gotten into other incidences with fans last year in the bubble. When he played for the Rockets, he got into it with one of the brothers or relatives of one of the Lakers players. And he's gotten into it with fans, okay? So what happens is the Sixers are blowing out the Wizards, which they should do. Okay, they're blowing them out game 2. In the third quarter, Russell Westbrook's walking back to the locker room. He's got an ankle injury. They're going to look at it. And so he's walking in, and a fan that's sitting right above the entrance into the tunnel takes his popcorn and dumps it on Russell Westbrook. Now, Russell Westbrook was already in the tunnel. I don't actually know how much the popcorn actually hit him. There's no clear evidence of it, but clearly something hit him, or things hit him, or little kernels hit him, whatever. He got hopping mad. The training staff and security had to hold Westbrook back from going after this fan. He came out and publicly spoke about it and was very mad. Bradley Beal, his teammate, came out and said that, hey, it's BS that it's only the minority amount of fans, that most fans are good, because apparently a fan said something rude to Bradley Beal in the vicinity of Bradley Beal's son at that very same game. And then you had LeBron James, who seems like he should just never comment on things, or seems like he always comments on things when he shouldn't. He said that this guy deserves to be hurt for doing what he did, and that they want the NBA to protect their players, which all makes sense. In theory, yes, all makes sense. The NBA should protect their players 100%. Then you have what happened with Kyrie. Kyrie going back to Boston for the first time since he basically quit on that team after he said that he wanted to hang his number in the rafters at the TD Garden. He quit on the team after one season, and he bolted to Brooklyn. And so fans are going to give it to him, but he said that, hey, Boston fans, they're kind of racist, which isn't necessarily untrue, but he's setting himself up to hear those comments, to then play the victim. So in all these incidences, look, I don't agree with what fans do. I don't agree with Boston fans being that way towards black players. I don't agree with the player or with the fan trying to spit on Trae Young. I don't agree with the fan dumping his popcorn on Russell Westbrook. But what Trae Young did, how Trae Young handled that situation, was a lot more mature than what these other clowns were doing. I mean, seriously. I mean, he laughed it off. I mean, yes, the fan has now been banned for life at Madison Square Garden, and should, because it's kind of stupid to do that. But Trae Young just had fun with it, fluffed it off, whatever. But these two veterans, Kyrie Irving, who is out there to begin with, still thinks the earth is flat, and Russell Westbrook, who thinks that he's the greatest gift to mankind, they handled it, to me, immaturely. And then you have LeBron James chiming in, you have Bradley Beal chiming in, and I think they handled it immaturely as well. As soon as players go after fans, it's never, ever a good thing. Never. I've always said that. As soon as you are a player and you call out fans, you're done. You're setting yourself up to fail. Doesn't matter how great you are. Doesn't matter. You are setting yourself up to fail. And this is what these players are doing. I mean, LeBron James wishing that this guy in Philadelphia who dumped the popcorn on Russell Westbrook to get hurt. I mean, seriously, dude? Like, what? You're wishing injury upon somebody for dumping popcorn. Now, I'm going to tell you a little story. Okay? My high school, we were playing a school. And it was both our men's team and our women's team were playing the same school, playing in basketball. And the women were playing first. They're playing a playoff game, very intense game. And luckily, the women's team the women's team from my school won. And now this was a packed place, and people ended up throwing a little bit of popcorn at them. And you know how they handled it? They laughed about it. It was funny. Yeah, in the moment, a little scary, 100%, because they're just teenagers. A little scary. But after the fact, they laughed at it. They didn't wish injury upon these fans. They didn't call out these fans. They didn't do any of that. They just laughed about it. So, you have these NBA players who play the diva card all the time, who are divas. And I think they handled the situation terribly. I don't agree with what the fans did, 100%. I do not agree with. I'm not trying to defend what the fans did. What I'm saying is how Trae Young handled his situation was a lot more mature than what Russell Westbrook, LeBron James, Bradley Beal, and Kyrie Irving have handled theirs. Wishing injury upon somebody for dumping popcorn is ludicrous. Saying that it's BS, that it's only the minority amount of fans that are bad, when it's really, in all honesty, the majority. Bradley Beal, no, that's not the case. I know a lot of fans that would never do that. And there are 99.9% of fans would not do that. Yeah, there are those few fans that do. And those people get kicked out of arenas. They get what they deserve. Don't come out with that BS. Russell Westbrook crying and trying to act all tough. Yeah, well, guess what? Maybe if you actually won something in your career that wasn't just about grabbing triple doubles and like you actually maybe won an NBA Finals, maybe you could say something. And Kyrie Irving, I'm sorry, you can't say anything. You wanted to be a leader. You weren't a leader. You're not a leader. You are second fiddle to LeBron. You're second fiddle to Kevin Durant. You're probably even third fiddle with James Harden on that team. They had to bring in veterans because you're not a leader. Because you wanted to quit on the Brooklyn Nets earlier this season. So, like I said, as soon as you've got players going after fans, never a good situation. These players clamored for these fans to come back. And guess what? They have come back. They've acted like fans. Fans is short form for fanatical, which is what they're doing. So I think they just need to, I hate to say it, but they need to maybe put that diva card back in their pocket. And I'm going to play a card that I hate to play. These players make millions of dollars. And you're yelling and screaming about a guy throwing popcorn on you who maybe makes, 50, 60 grand a year? You make $30 million. I hate to play that card, but I'm going to play that card. Again, players didn't want the whole play-in tournament. They thought it was stupid. Because, it's too much, you could get hurt, and it's too much work, it's do this, and that. Guess what? This ain't all about you. Maybe you can go start a league without any fans, without any play-in tournaments, and then there's going to be another league with fans, with play-in tournaments, and guess what? See how that does. Because I guarantee you, the one with fans, the one with play-in tournaments, is going to be a little bit more popular than your own league. The whole Bill James theory. You're right? You take these players out, you replace them with average Joes, in about 3 years, it's the same product. Just saying. Whether you're listening, thanks for supporting the podcast, and don't worry, you definitely will be hearing from me soon. Thanks.